Our guest of honor and speaker today exemplifies the spirit of EDSA, which restored the close historic relationship between our people and their soldiers. And so, ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct honor to present the Commander-in-Chief, Her Excellency, President Corazon C. Aquino.
Please be seated. Tikas, pahinga. Vice President Laurel, Secretary Ileto, General Ramos, Brigadier General Biason, officers and men of the AFP, PMA cadets and members of the graduating class of 1987, Your Excellencies of the Diplomatic Corps, fellow workers in government, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen. 1 year ago, I stood here and called the graduating class of '86 the proudest in PMA history. That class had gone through a graduating exercise of far greater importance than any held on this field. For the class of '86 had passed the most difficult test of a soldier, the test of his loyalty, the discovery of his highest duty. In the final days of the revolution, the class of '86, torn between literal duty and patriotism, had defected to the people and become the first graduating class of the People's Army. In that class, a young man stood and heard my call to protect the government and the state from any threat, be it internal or external. He heard me explain the difficulty of waging war for a democracy, of fighting for its honor and integrity without violating its principles. Lieutenant Edgardo Dizon answered that difficult call with the unquestioning valor and directness of a soldier. He answered it with his life. I went to the place where he was killed. I talked to his comrades in arms. I learned from them what a true officer he was. His troops had been pinned down by enemy fire. Against the warnings of his troops, he refused to take adequate cover so he could keep a commanding view of his soldiers. He was killed in a hail of enemy bullets. His act defined the first duty of an officer, the duty to take care for the safety of his troops. You who will leave here to command troops of your own, take his stern example to heart. We, the Filipino people, for whose freedom and honor he gave his life, take his sacrifice equally to heart and mourn the loss of a brave Filipino. I had hoped that peace would be the life of our new democracy, as it had been the moving spirit of its restoration. As I came to power peacefully, so had I hoped to keep it. God knows I have tried. But my offers of peace and reconciliation have been met with the most bloody and insolent rejections by the left and the right. It is clear that the forces of the extremes will not leave us in peace to achieve the recovery and progress we so badly need. The latest rejection was made in this field last week. It came in the form of a terrorist bomb, inflicting death and terrible suffering on innocent people in the midst of a most peaceful pursuit, while preparing for an occasion meant for joy and celebration. You, the graduating class of '87, now have your own distinction. During the preparations for your graduation, the PMA was struck by the greatest tragedy in its history. March 18, 1987, will live in our memory as the most treacherous act committed against it by the enemies of democracy. It was a dastardly act of cowardice. We will find the perpetrators, and some of you of the class of '87 will have the privilege of bringing them to justice. And you are the men for it. I have heard how well you responded to the crisis, rushing quickly to aid the wounded. It is fitting also at this point to acknowledge and commend the care and concern that civilians showed in this tragic incident. Doctors and nurses from Baguio General Hospital, St. Louis Hospital, and from as far as Manila responded with equal concern and timely assistance. Soldier and civilian worked together in the face of a common tragedy. You have learned the most important lesson of your entire training. Here, even before your graduation, you had your first encounter with the enemy. Now you know his methods and the evil he can do. You have seen the fate he intends for us, for your president and your people, if he prevails. Such evil passes understanding. I ask those who are responsible for this heinous deed, why is it necessary to go to such extremes? Why is it necessary to kill the innocent? Is nothing sacred anymore? Not the lives of the innocent, nor the sanctity of a school? The enemies of democracy, it is obvious, will not play by any rules. And yet we who stand for the truth can only fight with honor and humanity. That is the difficult challenge of fighting a democratic war. But I know that we are equal to it. The irony of this tragic incident is that it took place here in the very shield of the Republic, meant to protect its government and people. I have gone to many parts of our country, and I have walked freely among our people, protected by little more than their affection. And yet it is here in a military camp that perhaps the greatest threat to my life has been made and the greatest casualties inflicted. Take this lesson also to heart. It is the lesson of EDSA. We are safe only in the affection and loyalty of our people. This field where tradition guarantees the frontline defenders of Philippine democracy was intended by its enemies to be the graveyard of democracy. Let us pledge today to make it the graveyard of their dark ambitions instead. Let us pledge to defeat the ambitions of the left and the right to enslave this nation again and bring down our newfound pride. To the enemy, let me say, give up your futile struggle if you have a drop of humanity and patriotism left in your veins. Democracy is here to stay. It is our people you are killing. We shall spare no effort to protect them. Do not think you can use the rights and liberties, the promises of the Constitution, to destroy the lives and freedom of our people. No provision in the Constitution, let me say this now, will be allowed to prejudice their safety. For the first law of the Constitution is the protection of the people. To our enemies, let me say that nothing will intimidate this president. Death holds Death holds no fear for us, neither for the commander-in-chief nor for the soldier in the line. One nation, one armed forces, acting with the energy and direction of a single hand, will smite the foe on the left and the right and permanently end all threats to freedom before my term as president is over. This is my solemn oath. Last year I said, with a hope of peace in my heart, welcome home, my soldiers. Today I must say, with sadness in my heart, patience and courage, noble soldiers of the Republic. The harvest has not yet come. Our enemies have delayed the peace and progress for which we have worked so hard. The battle has only begun, but the victory will certainly be ours. 90 years of the Armed Forces of the Philippines is our guarantee of this. Congratulations to the Armed Forces of the Philippines. Congratulations to the class of 1987. Carry on. Mabuhay kayong lahat. Magandang umaga at maraming salamat sa inyo. In observance of a time-honored tradition of the Philippine Military Academy, and on the occasion of the graduation of the class of 1987, I, Corazon C. Aquino, President, Republic of the Philippines, and Commander-in-Chief, Armed Forces of the Philippines, hereby pardon all outstanding punishments of the Cadet Corps effective this day.